Okay.
All right, ladies. So I have Miss Hailley Leverty on today, and she is going to speak all about her blog, Beauty from Brokenness, and just give us a little bit of insight into her life, what her day-to-day looks like, why she started her blog, and why I asked her to be a service sponsor in this quarter's Tribe Box. So Miss Hailley, just tell us about yourself and give us a little insight into literally what the day-to-day looks like for you.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is just so much fun. As I was just talking, I'm a mom of littles, so it's fun for mom to have a project to be working on like this. So thank you for having me. So I've been married to my husband, Mike, for about 11 years, and we have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, so life is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, I was an event planner. So I planned weddings and I planned corporate charity events for a long time. And when I had kids, I knew that was kind of a lifestyle that I wasn't going to be able to keep up with. So I knew that I was kind of done with event planning full time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first had Leighton, I found myself at home and type A, want to be achieving. I want to be doing something part-time, but what on earth is it? And I kind of started to lose my mind a little bit. Like, how do people stay at home? And I'm with someone all day long, but I'm the loneliest I've ever been in my entire life. And as cliche as it sounds, like that was when I really started to grow in my faith journey. Like, okay, I can't do this on my own. Like, I'm not busy like I used to be. I don't have a social life or a job that's keeping me occupied. And so how am I going to get through this, God? And I just started putting a lot more time into my time with him, like praying and devotionals and reading and spending time with other women who maybe are further along in their faith journeys than I was. And what came of it was this blog called Beauty from Brokenness. And it just kind of started out as a way of me sharing my story with other women, but primarily younger women, because that was the time in my life where I struggled the most. So that, in a nutshell, is where the ministry began. So
Awesome. And when you say younger women, like, are you talking early 20s, teens? Like, what is kind of your bread and butter for who you are talking to?
yeah, my favorite women are like upper teens and 20s. I just think it's such a hard time. I mean, there are a lot of hard times as women, but as a teenager and as a 20-something, I mean, especially as a 20-something, you're really supposed to just be figuring it all out. Like, find your spouse, get married, get your job together, pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get a major for a job that you probably have no clue what you actually want to do for the rest of your life. And that for me, it was just one of the most stressful times of my life. So I really like that, like 16 to 25 age group.
Oh, I love that. And it's such a powerful and impactful age too. I can totally attest to that going through that time of my life. So tell us a little more about your blog and your social platforms, and give us kind of the down low of where we can find you too. Okay. So that after people watch this, they can go visit your blog or follow you on social media.
Yes. So it sort of started out as just a way, like I said, it was an outlet for me to share some of my stories. So I went and I got beautyfrombrokenness.org is the blog.
Okay.
And the more I shared, the more I was getting other women pouring in with their stories too. And I was like, gosh, this shouldn't just be about me. And that was when I started writing about their stories too. So on the blog, you'll find two things. You'll find my story, but you'll also find so many others with things that maybe I don't have experience with. So it's been a sharing mechanism. And then it expanded onto Instagram is probably where I have the biggest presence. So Beauty from Brokenness on Instagram as well.
Okay.
We're on Facebook, done a couple YouTube videos, but then my latest fun project is podcasting. And
awesome. Yeah. And that just released a month ago, 2 months ago?
Yeah, a couple months ago, and we're on Apple and wherever we're Spotify. I don't know. I'm still learning my technology, but
yeah, no, I get it.
wherever you're supposed to be. And I know all about the Apple application process because it is a process. So that's been fun to learn. But yeah, so that's where you can find me. It's Beauty from Brokenness across the board.
Okay, perfect. Well, I am a podcast absolute crazy fool. So I am definitely going to get off this call and get onto your podcast because I'm sure it's amazing.
Awesome.
So with your journey with this whole thing, When did it start and what has it looked like? Not only as, you were a professional in your past life
Yeah.
and now being a stay-at-home mom. And, I feel like there's so much pressure on us women to have it all together and to do all the things. And so I really just want you to share with my community, like what the journey has looked like and where you are today.
I talk about this with friends and people who are reading the blog almost on a daily basis. So I think as most of you know, as a mom, like it ebbs and flows. What you can and can't do ebbs and flows. So when I started this, I had a newborn, and silly me, I thought that newborns were hard.
And then they start walking, right?
Yes, I'm laughing because I thought they were hard. So I was like thinking I was strapped for time. And so that was when I got the most of it started. Like I laid the foundation for what I wanted it to look like, and I made future plans. Okay, I want to be able to do, I forgot to say, I've done a couple of live events. Like I mapped out, I want to be able to do this and that. And then the kids grow up and then you have another kid. And so I was just telling you earlier, like it's looked a lot different this year than it maybe has in the last 3, because I've had to slow down quite a bit with the 2 kids now. So just this morning I was writing out a map, like, okay, I maybe can't do a blog post, on a monthly level anymore. And I can't do a podcast every single week. So what can I do? And it's just been a constant juggling act of figuring out, where am I at? What can I do where I'm pushing myself in a healthy way, but not trying to squeeze in too much to the point where, especially for my industry, like it needs to be thoughtful content. It can't just be something that I'm throwing together, thoughtlessly. So it's been a changing, evolving process. And I hope and I pray that in the future I can do more than I'm doing now. But right now, at this exact moment, it honestly just looks like a daily post and maybe a quarterly podcast. As minimal as that sounds. So
yeah. But that's a really good basis, and actually really eye-opening for me, because, you hear about these podcasters and they're like, oh yeah, I'm releasing a new podcast every week. And
yes.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what the behind the scenes looks like for that. But my goal is, 2020 to do, like, start looking into the podcast world. But I love how you say, like, whether it's a blog post once a month, or like you just sound like your presence is like giving yourself a lot of grace.
I'm trying. You have to as a mom. That's where all this started, but you definitely have to as a mom. And the other thing I'll say, especially if there's anyone out there like you looking into podcasting, is there's an incredible amount of pressure to do it weekly. Or like, if you look at them, a lot of them tend to be in that like 40-minute range for whatever reason. And when I first started, I was like, well, that's what I have to do then. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, this is my podcast. Like there are people out there that are in the exact spot that I'm in right now. It doesn't need to be 40 minutes long. So I have these little snippets now. They're called Moment of Truth, and they're maybe 4 minutes long. And if you don't have time, like you just maybe listen to one of those on your way to work. Or some of them are 20 minutes long because that's all I have to say about the topic. And that's fine. And I just think to remind ourselves, like, we can make our own rules. We don't have to follow everyone else's. So that's helped a lot.
That is so powerful. And I will tell you, actually, I listen to a podcast almost daily, and it's 8 to 11 minutes. And I think those are the most powerful podcasts that I listen to. So I love that, how you're saying, like, it doesn't need to be this long journey. Because again, it's your podcast.
Exactly. But it's easy to forget, you get bogged down with the pressure of what everyone else is doing, and then you find yourself doing it, and it's good to just ask ourselves why.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now tell me about the workbook that you have, and just kind of like the product side of your business that you've been kind of trickling in, I guess.
Sure. Yep. And actually, I forgot to mention this. I mean, this was a huge piece much earlier than I realized it being a product, but I've always led small groups for young women. That's something that's been a part of my life always. And so I think that was another integral thing to like tapping into this passion was I found something that I've always kind of been doing. So if there's anyone out there who's like, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but if there's anyone who's curious about like what their passion is or what their purpose is, like a big clue is something that I personally, at least, had already been doing my whole life. So I've been leading these small groups, and I would always come up with my own lesson plan. So like they'd show up at my house and maybe we were reading a Bible, or maybe we were reading just a book, or sometimes we were just having discussions. And I always struggled to find something that was young adult specific. Like if you go to a Christian bookstore or a church library bookstore or whatever, there's not a lot out there for the young woman who's just struggling through life. Like there's a lot of for middle schoolers or high schoolers or single people or maybe married couples, but there isn't a lot just for like your standard 20-year-old girl who's just living her life. So long story short, I started writing down a bunch of these lesson plans that I was doing with these girls, these 20-somethings, and the illustrations we were using and the activities we were walking through, and we turned it into a little book. So I can sell it to other people from my blog if there are other small group leaders or even individual 20-somethings out there looking for something to read. So
okay. So is that your ideal purpose for your workbook, is to kind of get other like small groups to take part in it and go from there? Or is it something that you can just go to your website, buy, and do on your own?
I mean, ideally it's to be done as a group. So a lot of the ideas in it are things that I maybe learned in church growing up, but it wasn't hitting home. Like they weren't being delivered in an attractive way that I would have been interested in learning more about. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but the book is to, like one of the exercises, for example, is it has all these women start out by looking into a handheld mirror and like just paying attention to the thoughts that go through their heads about how they look. And it draws them in that way, and it gets them talking, and then it'll tie in the truth from the Bible, but in a way that's super interesting. So my whole goal is just to attract more people to God in a way that's actually attractive. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that other people have had that church experience, but growing up, I was always kind of like, this is good to know, but really boring.
Yeah. So. I can attest to that. And I just want to share a thoughtful story with you, because I think what you're talking about right now is so true, and that so many people struggle finding their faith because they don't understand that there's a relationship there. Totally. And I had this experience because I grew up Catholic. I grew up at a Catholic school up until 8th grade, and then I went to church, but I didn't ever have that deep connection until I went through my divorce. And I moved 4 hours away, and I had 2 young babies that I was figuring life out. And I'm so glad that I did have that tiny basis to like know, like I have nothing left in my life. My family, my ex's family, my friends, because they were a lot, I had literally nothing else in my life. Yeah. That I had to turn to my faith, and finding, thankfully, a church that had just scooped me up and said, we're going to help you find a relationship with the Lord. And it was a game changer.
Totally.
Such a game changer. And like you said, like introducing these small bits of the Bible to be able to relate that back to your life, I think is so incredibly powerful. So is that, like, that in a nutshell really is the workbook, and how you can start, like you said, take a mirror, look at yourself and go,
right.
Who is this woman?
That's one of the ways that we get the attention of 20-somethings. And I should say also, like, a lot of them are exactly how you described. They've grown up in a church where they maybe didn't understand or weren't making that connection. And then I guess the end goal of the book and the blog and everything would be, I always say I want to help girls take their head knowledge of God. So, you can go to church your whole life and know a lot about him without knowing him. I always say I want to take their head knowledge and make its way to their hearts earlier than it happened for me, because then you can avoid a lot of the pain, you can relate to. And I don't know if all the pain is avoidable, but some of mine definitely would have been avoidable if I had understood that God is actually a being to interact with. Like, as real as you and I sitting right here, someone who you can have a conversation with and who can actually fill you with this peace. And yeah, that's the end game of all of it. All my tools are to get young women to that point. Yeah. So that's exactly right.
Oh my gosh. I seriously have chills because it is so powerful. It is so powerful. And especially now with having young kids and being able to teach them right now, like when you're struggling with something,
Right.
just know that the Lord is always with you. So you're
Yes,
doing such amazing things. And what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that's the exact that's the exact idea behind Beauty from Brokenness is even when the brokenness happens, especially when the brokenness happens, that's when you really learn and can be made beautiful. So it's almost, not that you want tragedy to happen, but it's almost a good catalyst to grow. It's one of the best catalysts to grow, because you're right. You need to figure it out. You need help. You realize you can't do it by yourself. So
Absolutely.
yes,
Oh my gosh.
totally summed it up.
So good. So with our conversation, I love the depth and the heart that you have for your brand and what it all looks like, where it's at today. Like I said, the grace that you're giving yourself in this stage of your life, because as go-getter women, it's frustrating when we can't do all the things that we want to do. So tell me what you see the next 1 year, 3 years, 10 years looking like for your business. Have you thought about it?
So exciting. And we were talking about this, like it depends on your personality type, but I'm definitely the type where I see things I want to do. And yes, it's super hard. I think that's the challenge of motherhood, is just taking the time to enjoy the kids while they're little, knowing that hopefully when school comes around, there'll be more time to do these things. But yeah, ideally I'd be posting every day. I would be leading small groups. I want to do live events for entire high schools worth of young girls would be my dream. Like get them all in a room and put on the coolest live event with videos that support what I was just talking about, like video versions and live versions of looking into the mirror and doing the lessons. It's the same kind of basic lessons, but just again, like putting it in a very attractive, heart-tugging sort of experience that they're going to say like, okay, there's more to life than what I'm maybe going through right now. Like I am interested in this. So yeah, I don't know. I have so many things I want to do. I just don't have time to do them right now. But yeah, regular practice, all the things.
I get it. So eventually having events that we can kind of peek into your life and watch from.
Yeah, more videos, more podcasts, all the things. And maybe like a mom's version, like there's plenty of need for our age group too. Like we need to, I've actually found that podcasts are listened to more by our age group. So maybe that's the tool right there to reach that age group. But, offering more to more age groups. Yeah. Niche messages, depending on who's listening, would be my dream.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing that you're doing. And I know that, those days can come and we're like, we're not doing the things that need to be done to get to where we want to go. But you really just, you make it look so easy. And so really, honestly, because you accept where you are today and you're just doing the best that you know how to do. And so I think for my community and for my followers, that is a hard thing because they don't see all the things that happen behind the scenes. Actually, you and I work with the same graphic designer. We don't, we hire some things out in our businesses that we know can be done better by somebody else. And so even just having those little nuggets, I'm curious to know how much of your business right now are you doing, or your blog, or, your workbooks and that type of stuff? Like how much are you in your day-to-day business?
Yeah. I do all of it minus what you just talked about. So the marketing piece, I am not qualified to do that. I could try, but when there are people like ours out there who's so great at what she does, that right there was a no-brainer. And then photography, I'm not so great at that either. So I love to do photography projects where I bring in some of these young women that I've maybe been working with for a long time, and we have fun. We set it up. We think through like, okay, what kinds of topics can we talk about with these photo shoots? And that's been another area where I've invested, where I think it's worth it because of how important imagery is on Instagram. If you're as good as you are at doing pictures, I'm just not that great. So those are the two areas that I invest in, but most of the rest is me. All the writing is me, and I hope I can keep it that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's kind of, what I like to call it, the guts of your business. And,
yes.
And I feel the same way. Like you're never going, like I might hire out somebody to do some of my posts on the Top Knot Tribe page, because that's more of a community page. That's, you know, I have somebody do some of the writing for me on that. But on my personal pages, you're only ever going to have me. And so that's been a really big help for me too. And so, but I just love to see, like, as women, as they start to progress in their business and grow, and because it's such a balance. And I just, again, you're in the perfect spot right now. You really are. Because I don't want to miss the growing up of my children, and put your business into the hands of, you know, all the other people that when really in reality, the most important people are right there with you. So.
Well, and I think part of it depends on what you're talented in, where your niche is. Like, you to me seem like you are a across the board coordinator. Like, you could have your hands in a million different things and be orchestrating them. And for me, my core thing is writing. So for me, that will be the piece that I'll probably never let go of. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I should be talking with someone about how I grow my business. I don't know.
Well, the blog writing, I mean, that's just it. You know, that is you. And I think that's so powerful. That's like your core is your blog. And, you know, the other stuff can kind of trickle around it, but it all stems from you writing the blog, you know? So I think you're doing amazing things. And I truly want you to know, like, funny how we got interconnected through my hairdresser, through my designer, through the photographer, it was just like all these different ways.
Yes.
Leading us to, like, and then we just grabbed coffee for 15 minutes one day, and it's like,
I know.
He is my spirit animal. So.
Oh, well, that's what I know is to meet someone. Like, when you would have met through multiple channels, it's like, okay, you were supposed to be my friend.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And I still don't feel like we've had enough time to dive into each other's stories, but I just want you to know, like, truthfully, I am so thankful that you were a Tribe Box sponsor this quarter. And my goal is to just continue to, like, open it up for other women to see how simple you make having your faith and that faith journey look, because I think that there's so much gray area out there of, like, what is this faith? You know, what is a relationship with the Lord? How do I get through these hard times by myself without substance, without, you know, abuse of some sort? And so my goal is to just continue to share all of your things, because you're just doing such an incredible job at making it look so simple. So
thank you. I love what you're doing as well. I love how you're connecting women, and your passion is so obvious. And I'm just lucky to feel lucky that I'm working with you. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Hailley. And we're going to chat soon. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.